Okay, I had a mailbox full of stuff today. Motorcycle parts mostly. And I had a visit from the FedEx man with more stuff. FedEx man brought me another K70 Dunlop. It's for my street SR. I thought I could make it all year with that tire, but it's getting too thin. So I figured, okay, I'll go ahead and change it right now, be done with it. I go through a lot of tires. I go through a lot of miles. All right. And that's like I say, for my street SR, because them K70s are rated at like 95. Well, the bike I'm building, I got to have more margin than that. Now, I have pushed that to over 100 on a K70 because that 95 rating is, maximum tire pressure, maximum load. Well, I pushed 100, but this other bike was going to be a lot hotter than that. All right, other parts. Now, this collection of parts, I buy odd assortment of parts. Because the good thing about these XDs, TT, and SR, the parts are interchangeable for so many years. The reason I bought this particular set here, for one thing, I needed this. Now, a lot of people don't realize what these are. What it's for is on the back of the engine cases. This top motor mount is kind of a bushing in there, and this has to go inside the case between the two bushings. It's kind of a damper, and a lot of times people tear the motors apart and they sell the parts and they don't realize that this has to go with the cases. So a lot of times you'll take apart a set of cases and it won't even have that in there. Somebody left it out. But this guy had one in this assortment of parts. That and this, which is the dummy plug for taking out the kick indicator. I always take them out and toss them and put in a dummy. Well, these are like $30. So this was like $40 for the whole set. So yeah, that's a good thing. Plus, he's got not only the cylinder head, the cylinder base bolts, or whether a nut actually, but also there's a particular washer they used, and he has them in here too. Now, a lot of times them washers get stuck in the bottom of the cylinder of the hole, and people lose them. Sometimes you get a cylinder that's got one or two of them in, but doesn't have all of them. This cover is nothing. They don't normally go bad, but that stuff. Now, always when I buy sets like this, or miscellaneous assortment, I get a lot of these cased bolts. The Allen bolts that hold the case together and hold the side covers on. They're nothing to me, because the first thing I always do when I'm building a motor is I get from this Alloy Bolts. He sells sets of the whole engine bolts, and these are stainless. And what I like about them is they all have little washers, so they spread the load out a little more than what these do. Plus, the head has got a little more depth to it, because these can get wore out and they end up taking an easy out to get them out of there. So I personally do. I switch them to these stainless. The only thing, if you use stainless into aluminum, you have to either use like blue Loctite or even a never seize, or the dissimilar metals can cause them to stick in there. But I always like using these, and it's so nice. He's got a nice set that everything is labeled. He does a good job. I've got that on all the bikes I built. What I was saying about this piece, this is a crankcase half. Now I've got a really nice set of TT crankcases that I'm putting together. Now, this is a kind of a junk one because what's common with these is people will break a chain or throw a chain and knock off. There's a bolt that's supposed to go here under the sprocket cover. God, three-quarters of them are gone. Uh, and you can see like this is bent out. This whole seal area is all tore up. You know, that's a problem, and it's a stupid problem because you can buy what's called a case saver. It's like a horseshoe shaped piece of metal that goes in here, and then your chain cannot fly off, or if the chain breaks, it simply spits it out. But if you break a chain in these, it piles up back in here, and you can split the cases. So that case saver is a very good investment, but it's like $20 or $30. And on an off-road bike, you really need them. You're a fool not to. You know? But this case, you know, it's actually kind of junk, but I have a plan for that. I didn't buy it. I've had that for a long time. I bought it for the guts because the guts are going into the TT case, except one of the tranny gears was bad. So I bought the tranny gears and shafts out of an 81. I think this is the gear on the other one that actually a little piece was broke off of this. You know, they shift back and forth. And evidently it had been working that way. But, you know, I'm not going to assemble a motor with a bad shift clutch in it. But this, like I say, 81 is going in like a 76 motor, you know, but they didn't change for all them years. Another assortment that I bought was this. Now, the thing on these, you got to know what you're looking at. And try not to buy junk because a lot of times they'll throw in like old chains or wore out sprockets, and you know you can't pay shipping on stuff that's just junk. You know, you can buy new stuff cheaper than that. But this odd assortment of little things, that's when you can come out good. Like these are the rear wheel adjusting bolts. They can be very hard to find and expensive, so good to have them. These little pins here, they always go between all of the side covers and the head and the cylinder and the cases even. You know, they are what align things. So good to have some extra ones of them on hand. These are the bolts for the tank mount. And this too, there again. And these. But that stuff can be very expensive if you part it out. Now, I don't know what in the world these were actually from. You know, it's a broken strap. There again, you know, junk, really. But maybe I can make use of that. And I'm not sure where this bracket is. It's got I think, an oil holder built into it. But you get like these little washers and stuff. I come out real good on them. But it's just, you know, you got to know what you're looking at and know what interchanges between stuff. I had left too. I bought a couple of these. These are new, but it's like $22 for a clutch and a brake master cylinder. You know, with the levers and the whole thing. And what I thought was funny here, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, why in the world, you know, on the master cylinder they have the switch for the brake light. Of course, crappy little switch, you know, I'd count on. But then on the clutch they had a switch. And I'm thinking, what in the world do you want a switch on the clutch? Well, that's for these, you know, newer bikes where they've got to have everything interlocked so that you can't start it if the kickstand is down or it's not in neutral or the clutch isn't pulled in. You know, if you don't have the sense to do them right, that, you know, it aggravates because when I look at that, I see all that interconnected stuff. All it takes is for one of them to fail. And if you're using a bike off-road, one of them's going to fail. And then you're screwed. it's just a bad plan. You got to learn not to start it in gear. But they try to make these things idiot-proof, and that doesn't work. Also got just a stupid little throttle. Now, I don't think I'll use it on anything. Well, maybe on that, working on that one, the Fawn. It would work for that. But cheap, these are regular old school chopper stuff. It's aluminum, plastic drum. A lot of times you run into these where somebody tipped the bike and broke the plastic drum. So that's good to have. And off of the bike subject, Volkswagen axle boots. Now, it's funny because I bought a pair of these and I have not been able to figure out where I left them. I thought they were in the Volkswagen, but they weren't. But I want to get that thing off the bench and that motor, and before I do, I got to put these axle boots in. So I can do that now. If I feel like taking a break from motorcycles, I'll get that Volkswagen motor in. But right now, I'm assembling, well, I'm still working on that other bike. But this is going into that TT, that set of cases, because I want to have a spare motor, or at least the main engine cases and a cylinder on it, and maybe the head. That way I have a spare motor that'll fit in all three of my bikes, of the 500s. So you could easily swap out the ignition and all that external stuff. But if you have the main, like a long block, you would call it, ready to go, you can just pop that in if I need it. When I got all the parts, I got the cases, and it's all laying there disassembled. So I figure I'll put it all together rather than have a lot of parts laying around. But that's one of the reasons I needed this in order to put them two cases together, that set. And of course, this will go in that too. But rather than have all them parts laying around loose, I'll assemble it into that long block so that if I need the motor, that way if I have to work on another one, I can just swap motors. It doesn't take very long to swap a motor out of them. And then work on it at my leisure. But this was a good deal, this tranny. A lot of times people, they part these out, individual parts, which is where you have to have the part numbers. That's where a part number book is more important than a service manual. You want to be able to look up, because I buy a lot of new old stock parts, and they're listed by the part number. The guy selling it might not even know what the hell it was for, but he's got the part number on the package. So if you can search it by that part number, that works out well. But now I can put that set of cases together. That's a good job for today. And I will be assembling it with these alloy bolts. That guy does a good job out of Florida. alloybolts.com. But I've been very happy with them. Because like I say, these other bolts, they can get wore out. And then you can't get an Allen wrench in far enough. These are just deeper. So I like those. And we'll see about this whole master cylinder deal. That should bolt right on to an SR. But I don't know how good they are. They were like $20 for the master cylinder and the clutch lever. So that's plenty cheap. But that's Chinese stuff. so I don't know how much I'd count on them. But to get the original SR master cylinder can be pretty spendy. And these are a replacement for, like on the newer XTs where they ran a front disc brake. So that's a lot of parts. And I got more coming. I bought another from a different guy. It's funny though, because like a lot of times I'm buying from people I have bought from before uh, that disassemble motorcycles and sell parts off. And I'm ended up buying another assortment of parts because it included the shift forks, which I don't really think I need. I think I got extra shift forks, but in them was another one of these. So I thought, okay, a lot of people, even the people who work on these things, don't realize that they have to be in there, and they don't include them with the cases. But cases can be a trick, and if you're looking at a case, you really got to look. This is where always, if this is gone, which is, like I say, very common, you can bet they threw a chain, and this can get tore up. Your oil is right there. The oil line goes. You can bust that up. I see some of them in pretty pitiful shape, all for the want of that simple case saver. But on XT or TT, they're a must-have. I can't imagine. You could do so much damage. And it's funny, like I say, that TT set of cases I have, that's in perfect condition. Nothing's been monkeyed with. I have no idea why that motor was ever disassembled. But that's how people make a living. They'll buy a not running bike, tear it apart, and sell the parts to people like me. But a lot of times they don't even take the cases apart, so you're kind of buying a pig in a poke. You don't know what the rod section is. Oh my God, I see this one even got there an extra, the clutch push rod. Stick it in there. See, normally stuff like that, they part that out separately. I love it when they sell, components that are related to each other in one bunch. That's a lot of work to do. But I enjoy that. This will be get them cases together. I'll have a lot of parts off the bench organized into a nice backup motor. I do like having backups for things. But I always think, like I know there's a guy, like $150 and another $150 to ship it. He's got a TT 500 frame. Yeah. So $300, I could throw that TT motor in it. I'd have a whole nother bike. Don't know that I need it, but I could assemble a TT strictly for off-road, because now that my XT is converted back to, on-road, off-road, maybe just a regular dirt bike. Don't really feel the need for it, but it's always that temptation. If you got a motor, I got everything else I need to put one together but a frame. And that's the thing too, if you're buying frames, or if you're buying like an XT or that sort of thing, you really gotta they have the paperwork for it. TT doesn't really matter, it's not street legal anyway, but an XT, you want the paperwork if they got it. But you do pay extra for that. But it's nice, if you're ever going to try to license the thing. But for what I would do with a TT, it wouldn't matter. Well, that's projects for today.